Why was she the only one standing at the edge of the tarmac? The C-130's engine screamed in the dark, hot air rolling across the empty runway. Everyone else had already boarded, everyone but her. She adjusted the strap of the pack on her shoulder, the same pack she'd carried through a dozen operations before. Her hair was tied back, dust clinging to her skin, but her jaw was set. She was not late. She was deciding. Inside the belly of the aircraft, silhouettes moved, men laughing too loud, forcing jokes to mask the tension. A gloved hand slapped another on the shoulder. Someone cracked open a stick of gum like it mattered. Their faces blurred together, shapes behind the dim red light of the cargo hold. She stood there outside, until the crew chief leaned out of the side door and waved impatiently. "Let's go, we're wheels up in 2." She didn't move, not yet. The pack on her shoulder was heavier than it looked, not from gear, not just from the plates and ammo. Something about tonight made it weigh differently. She touched the zipper once, almost like a ritual. Only when the sound of the engines deepened, signaling final call, did she take a breath, square her shoulders, and walk toward the aircraft. Each step sounded loud in her own head. Nobody asked why she was late when she climbed aboard. Nobody looked her in the eye. She sat down on the cold webbing, opposite a row of men who didn't know her, not really. They'd heard stories, everyone had, but no one asked her for the truth. Her rifle was already there, racked, waiting. She ran her fingers over the barrel. The ramp lifted, sealing them inside. The noise rose, the plane lurched forward. No turning back now. One of the younger guys across from her, barely shaving age, grinned nervously. "First time?" he asked. She looked at him blank. "No." The grin faltered, he looked away. She closed her eyes. When the plane was high and steady, she felt the vibration through her boots. It was almost calming, like white noise. But then, as always, her mind wandered. She saw the old farmhouse again, the porch light that never worked, the last argument in the kitchen, harsh words thrown like grenades, the look in her father's eyes when she signed the papers. She told no one what this mission really meant to her. The briefing back at base had been clinical, detached. Hostile region, high-value target, intel recovery, possible rescue. The kind of words that stripped out everything human. But she knew something they didn't. She knew the name of the hostage. And she knew why she had to be the one on this plane tonight. Her fingers tightened on the pack strap. The jumpmaster's voice broke through the drone of the engines. 30 minutes. The cabin came alive. Gloves tightened, rifles checked, magazines tapped. Someone kissed a crucifix hanging from his neck. She just breathed slow. Her heart was steady now, too steady. The kid across from her tried to make conversation again, maybe to calm himself more than her. "You ever think about, what happens if we don't come back?" She opened her eyes and looked straight at him this time. "Every day." That shut him up. When the ramp lowered mid-flight, the night poured in like a living thing. Cold air whipped through the cabin. The world outside was moonless black, but she could smell it. Sand, smoke, diesel. The first 2 men dropped into the dark, then the next pair. One by one, they vanished into the void. When it was her turn, she didn't hesitate. She stepped off into nothing. For a moment, there was no sound except the rush of air. Then the chute opened, slamming her upward. The sudden quiet that followed was almost unbearable. Below her, the desert stretched forever, broken only by the faint glow of burning oil drums in the distance. It looked like a map someone had set on fire. She landed hard, rolled, came up with her rifle ready. The night swallowed her. The team moved out wordlessly. They were ghosts now, boots barely whispering against the dirt. Every step felt heavier. The pack rubbed against her back. She didn't care. She kept scanning the horizon. Not for threats, not just threats, but for a sign, any sign. She'd been here before. Different time, different mission, different outcome. Her chest tightened at the memory. This was where it had all gone wrong. The village appeared out of the dark like a mirage, mud walls, scattered fires, shadows moving. A dog barked somewhere distant. The point man signaled. They crouched low. Voices drifted on the wind. Laughter, a radio playing some old song. She swallowed hard. The kid next to her, the same one from the plane, whispered, "Ma'am, what's the plan?" She didn't answer right away. She was watching a door across the courtyard where two figures stood smoking. That was the house. She knew it. She didn't know how, but she knew. Her pulse was in her ears. Something in the pack pressed against her spine as she shifted. She was here finally. But there was something she hadn't told them. Not yet. The door across the courtyard opened wider, spilling light. She felt every muscle lock, every nerve go electric. The next seconds would change everything. Would she rush in? Would she break the plan? Would they stop her if she did? The team waited for her call. The radio clicked once, ready for her word. Her hand hovered over the mic. And in that one heartbeat of silence, she heard a voice, faint, almost imagined, from inside the house. Her breath caught. It was her name. And just like that, the mission wasn't just a mission anymore. It was personal. She didn't breathe. Not until the voice came again, softer this time, as if whoever had spoken feared being overheard. Her hand was still frozen over the radio mic. The plan was simple: breach, secure intel, extract. No deviations. No hesitation. But she knew that voice. Her chest tightened under her vest. It had been years since she last heard it. And yet there was no mistaking it. "Ma'am," the kid whispered again, more urgent now. "We're greenlit. Orders say we move." She didn't answer. Her heart was hammering too loud. The team leader's voice crackled in her ear. "Your call." And it was. They'd given her operational control tonight, because no one knew this terrain like she did. She closed her eyes for half a second. The smell of dust filled her lungs. If she called it now, they would storm the compound. Take out everyone inside. Leave no one standing. That was the plan. But what if the voice was real? What if the one person she'd thought gone dead was right there? Her finger pressed the mic. "Hold position," she whispered. The team froze. Confusion rippled through them, but no one spoke. She crawled forward, keeping low, until she had a better angle on the doorway. Two guards laughed, passing a cigarette back and forth. The light from inside shifted. A figure moved past the open door. Her throat felt dry. The pack on her back seemed heavier than ever. She reached back, almost without thinking, and touched the zipper. Inside was something no one knew she'd brought. Something that could change everything about tonight. But not yet. Not unless she had to. The kid was beside her now, rifle ready, breathing hard. "You see something?" "Maybe," she said. Her voice was low, controlled, too controlled. He studied her face, like he wanted to ask more but didn't dare. A dog barked closer this time. The guards turned their heads, distracted for just a second. That was the window. She signaled the team to move, silently, quickly. They swept forward, hugging walls, staying in shadow. Her boots barely made a sound as she slid up to the door. She could hear voices inside now, 3, maybe 4 men. And then a cough. Soft, weak. She closed her eyes. She knew that cough. The breacher waited for her signal. The charge was ready. She raised her hand, then hesitated. Her brain screamed at her, "Follow procedure, follow procedure." But her gut said something else. "Wait," she breathed. The breacher frowned. She pointed to the far side of the house, a window barely hanging on its hinges. They moved slow, careful, until they reached it. She peered through the crack, and there, lit by a single lantern, was a man sitting against the wall. His face was gaunt, beard overgrown. But she knew him instantly. Her stomach dropped. Her brother. He was alive. After all this time. Her breath hitched, and the kid beside her shot her a startled look. She didn't care. The team leader whispered over comms, "Target is secondary. We need to secure the intel first." Her jaw clenched. "Change of priorities," she said flatly. "We get him out." A pause on the line. "You sure?" "Positive." The decision wasn't tactical. It wasn't rational. It was personal. And it could get them all killed. The guards turned back toward the courtyard, their rifles slung casual, careless. She didn't wait. Her rifle barked once, twice, clean, quiet. Both guards dropped. The team surged. The door went down in a burst of splinters. Shouts inside. Gunfire. She was already through the smoke, already moving. The room tilted with adrenaline as she cleared corners, heart hammering in her throat. A figure lunged at her from the left. She drove him back with a burst of fire. And then she saw him again. Her brother, wide-eyed, barely able to stand. He stared at her like she was a ghost. "Easy," she said, moving toward him. "It's me." His lips parted, cracked and dry. "You came." "Always." Her voice almost broke on that single word. The team was shouting now, calling clear, dragging enemy weapons into a pile. 5 minutes to exfil, the leader barked. She hauled her brother to his feet. He was shaking, every step unsteady. But he was alive. That was all that mattered. Outside, more voices rose, angry, panicked. They were coming. "Move," she snapped. The team formed a protective arc as they crossed the courtyard. The night erupted with more gunfire, this time from the ridgeline. Tracers cut the dark like angry comets. They hit the ground, dragging her brother down with them. "Contact rear," someone yelled. The kid cursed under his breath. "They were waiting for us." She gritted her teeth. "Not now. Not tonight." Her pack thumped against the dirt as she rolled over. Her hand found the zipper. She hesitated one last time and then yanked it open. Inside was something she wasn't supposed to have. A device small enough to fit in her hand. A beacon. A call for something bigger than their team, bigger than this mission. She armed it. The soft hum was barely audible over the firefight. But the kid heard it. His eyes widened. "Ma'am, what the hell is that?" She didn't answer. She pressed the button. Somewhere high overhead, an aircraft changed course. Somewhere far away, a satellite woke up. Help was coming. But so was hell. She dragged her brother behind a wall, pressed her rifle against her shoulder, and fired into the dark until her magazine clicked empty. When she looked at him again, he was staring at her like he didn't recognize her anymore. Maybe he didn't. She wasn't sure she recognized herself either. 2 minutes, the team leader shouted. The sound of engines in the distance now, low, heavy. Extraction was inbound. But so were the enemy reinforcements. She had 2 minutes to survive. 2 minutes to decide if she could forgive herself for breaking the plan. 2 minutes to decide if saving him was worth what came next. Somewhere deep down, she already knew the answer. The night was on fire now. Tracers ripped past overhead, sparks spitting from the mud wall inches from her head. Her brother clung to the ground beside her, coughing, too weak to move. "Get him up," she shouted over the noise. The kid grabbed one arm, she grabbed the other. They half dragged, half carried him as the team began to fall back toward the extraction point. Rounds snapped overhead, kicking up dust. The team leader's voice was calm, clipped too calm. "Contact rear, 2 squads at least. They're flanking left." "Hold them," she hissed back. 30 seconds. 30 seconds felt like a lifetime. Her boots slid in the loose dirt. Her heart pounded like a war drum. Every few steps she turned, firing a controlled burst, buying just a sliver of breathing room. The kid stayed tight on her brother, shielding him with his own body whenever the shooting got too close. "Why are they still pushing?" he gasped. "They know we're calling air. They should be scattering." She didn't answer. She knew why. Whoever was leading them didn't care about living through the night. Then she heard it. The low thunder of rotors. A different kind of sound. A different kind of hope. "Birds inbound," someone yelled. Relief surged through her until she saw the flare arc overhead. Red. Enemy marking the LZ. "Break right," she ordered. "Get off the X." They cut across the alley, boots hammering on stone. Her shoulders screamed with every pull on her brother's arm. They spilled out into a clearing, just as the helicopter roared into view, black silhouette against the night. Its side door opened, a gunner leaned out. Then the whole sky lit up. Tracer fire converged on the bird. Rounds pinged against the fuselage, sparks like angry fireflies. The gunner returned fire, a wall of lead tearing across the ridgeline. But there were too many. 2 minutes, the pilot's voice barked over comms. "Make it fast." She shoved her brother toward the others. "Get him on board." The kid hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll hold them." His face went pale. "You can't." "Go," she snapped. He didn't argue again. She dropped to one knee, sighted in, and fired until her rifle locked back empty. Her ears rang. She reloaded by touch, breath coming fast. Every shadow felt alive now, every flicker of movement a threat. Her brother's voice carried over the chaos, hoarse, broken. "You're still doing it." She glanced back at him, just for a second. "Doing what?" "Taking all the weight on yourself." The words hit harder than any bullet. Because he was right. She didn't have time to answer. The enemy surged again, closing fast. She grabbed the last smoke grenade from her vest and yanked the pin. Purple haze blossomed, swallowing the courtyard. "Load up," the team leader barked. The kid practically hauled her brother into the bird. She backed up, firing blind into the smoke, until she could feel the rotor wash on her face. Then she ran. Hands reached out, pulling her inside. The door slammed. The helicopter surged skyward. For a moment, all she could hear was the pounding of the rotors. Then silence. The kind of silence that comes after you realize you're still alive. She sat back against the cold metal floor, chest heaving. Her brother sat across from her, still breathing hard, still staring at her. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The kid broke the silence first. "Who is he?" She didn't look away from her brother when she answered. "My brother." That landed like a grenade. The kid's eyes widened. "That's why you—" "Yes." The team leader just shook his head. "You realize this could cost us everything." "I know," she said quietly. But she didn't look guilty. Not even a little. The bird banked hard, throwing them sideways. Somewhere below, the enemy kept firing, chasing them with tracers that never reached. But her brother didn't flinch. He just kept looking at her. Finally, he spoke again, voice barely a whisper. "They told me you wouldn't come. They were wrong. You almost got yourself killed." I've been dead since that night." That last sentence seemed to hang in the cabin air. The kid frowned, confused. "What night?" Her brother's gaze didn't leave hers. "The night we lost everyone," she said. The memory slammed into her like a wave. The convoy ambush. The burning vehicles. The screaming. Her brother disappearing in the chaos. She lived with that night every single day since. The kid looked between them, realization dawning. "You joined because of him." She nodded once. The team leader said nothing, but his jaw was tight. The mission hadn't gone as planned, but they were alive. "For now." The pilot's voice cut through the comms. "ETA base 10 minutes, but we stirred the nest. Expect company next time." She just leaned back, rifle across her lap, and let the sound of the rotors fill the silence. Her brother was alive. That was all that mattered. For the moment. But there was still the intel they hadn't retrieved. Still the enemy they hadn't broken. Still the war that hadn't ended. This was just the beginning. She glanced at the pack beside her. The beacon was still armed. Help was still coming. And when it arrived, nothing about this war would ever be the same. Why was the base so quiet when they landed? The helicopter's skids kissed the pad, rotors still whipping the air into a frenzy, but no one rushed forward. No ground crew waving them in. No medics waiting with stretchers. Just a handful of figures standing at a distance, arms crossed, watching. She stepped off first, boots hitting the tarmac with a hollow thud. Her brother followed, half supported by the kid. No one said a word. The silence followed them all the way to the debriefing room. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The smell of jet fuel still clung to her skin. The commanding officer stood at the far end of the table, expression like stone. "Sit," he said. She didn't. The team filed in behind her, taking their seats one by one. Her brother lingered by the wall, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room like a caged animal. The co waited until everyone was still before he spoke. "You changed the plan," he said flatly. "You jeopardized the mission." She didn't flinch. "Yes." "You want to explain why?" She took a breath. "Because he was in there." She didn't point at her brother. She didn't have to. The co's eyes flicked toward him, then back to her. "Your personal connection compromised this operation. We lost the intel." Her jaw tightened. "We would have lost him." That wasn't the objective. The words cut like a knife. She wanted to shout, wanted to throw something, but she didn't. She just stood there, fists clenched, letting the silence speak for her. The co finally exhaled. "Stand down, get cleaned up. We'll decide what to do with you in the morning." It wasn't a threat. But it wasn't mercy either. She left the room without looking back. Her brother followed. They walked the corridor in silence, boots echoing against the concrete. Finally, when they were clear of the others, he spoke. "You didn't have to come for me." She stopped, turned. "Yes, I did. After everything, after that night." She swallowed hard. "That's why I had to." They stood there for a moment, just breathing. Then he leaned against the wall, exhausted. "You want to know what really happened?" She nodded once. His voice was quiet but steady. "They took us after the ambush, marched us for days. I thought they'd kill us right there in the dirt, but they didn't. They wanted something, information, names." He looked down at his hands. "They didn't get it, not from me." She felt her chest ache. "They broke the others," he said. "One by one, I heard it, I smelled it." His eyes were distant now, unfocused. "I was the last one left, and then they just stopped, locked me in that room and forgot about me." She wanted to reach for him, to put a hand on his shoulder, but she didn't. He wasn't done. I thought about you, he said softly. Every single day. Wondered if you hated me. Wondered if you blamed me for living when the others didn't. Her throat tightened. I blamed myself, she said. He blinked at her. You. Yes, I wasn't there. I should have been. You couldn't have. I should have been, she repeated, sharper this time. He stared at her, then shook his head. You've been punishing yourself ever since. She didn't deny it. The hallway seemed too small suddenly, too full of ghosts. She turned away, pressing the heels of her hands against her eyes. I can't lose you again, she said. You won't. You don't know that. He stepped closer now, voice low. You already did the hard part. You found me. That landed like a blow. Because he was right. Finding him was the one thing she'd been living for. But now that she had, what came next? They stood there until the kid appeared at the end of the hall, hesitating. Ma'am, Intel section wants to talk to you. She exhaled slowly, turned back toward her brother. This isn't over, she said. It never is, he replied. The Intel room was dim, screens glowing with satellite feeds and grainy maps. A woman in civilian clothes waited there, one of the analysts. She didn't bother with pleasantries. You lit up a beacon tonight, the analyst said. Yes. Do you have any idea what you just called in? Yes. The analyst stared at her for a long time. Then she turned one of the screens toward her. This is what's coming. On the screen, a flight path blinked toward the region. Not just one aircraft. A formation. Heavy lift. Gunships. A storm. You think tonight was loud? The analyst asked quietly. Tomorrow, going to shake the ground. She left the room with that image burned into her brain. Her brother was waiting outside. He took one look at her face. What now? Now, she said. Now it gets worse. But there was a strange calm in her chest as she said it. Because for the first time since that night, she wasn't running from the past. She was walking straight into it. The desert wind howled outside the base walls, carrying the smell of rain. Tomorrow would bring the fight to them. She tightened the strap of the pack on her shoulder. Whatever happened next, she would be ready. Why did the alarm scream so loud at 300 hours? She woke to the sound of the base shaking, metal rattling underfoot, the rotors of a hovering helicopter miles away. No, closer, too close. She grabbed her rifle instinctively, heart hammering. Her brother stirred beside her, eyes wide with fear. They're here, she whispered. Who? He murmured. They, she said simply. She didn't have time for names, not now. The sky was already lit with tracer fire. She vaulted out of the bunk room, hauling her brother behind her, boots pounding on concrete, sirens blared, red strobes flashing. The rest of the team was already moving. They formed a perimeter near the armory, scanning the darkened horizon. Status, she barked. The kid she'd pulled from the courtyard last night sprinted past, checking a comms console. There inside the perimeter, multiple points of entry. Her stomach dropped. Inside her, something cold and familiar began to rise, fear. She shoved it down. She couldn't afford it, not now. The first wave hit the outer walls. They were fast, brutal, trained, not ragged insurgents. She opened fire, rifle snapping, recoil biting into her shoulder. Every pull of the trigger was a decision, every shot calculated. Her brother stayed low, pressed against the wall of the armory. She swept a glance over her shoulder. Stay down, she ordered. Yes, ma'am, he whispered, voice trembling. Her team responded quickly. Tactical movements, cover fire, suppressive bursts. But it wasn't enough. A secondary breach came from the east gate. Fall back to the courtyard, she ordered. They retreated under fire, every step a battle with gravity, momentum, and fear. She glanced at her brother again. His face was pale, sweat streaking the dirt and grime. She wanted to scream at him to move faster, to be stronger, but he was doing all he could. And so was she. The courtyard was chaos. Rockets slammed into the perimeter, sending plumes of dust and debris into the night. Explosions rocked the ground. Her brother stumbled, almost falling. She grabbed his arm. "You okay?" she shouted over the roar. "Yeah," he gasped. She didn't believe him. Then the radio crackled. "Ma'am, Intel team reporting command section compromised. Repeat, command section compromised." Her chest went cold. If command fell, they'd be cut off. Extraction would be delayed. She took a deep breath. "Move, get to the bunker." Her brother struggled, but she stayed beside him, guiding him through the smoke and fire. The kid followed, rifle ready, eyes scanning every shadow. They reached the bunker, but it wasn't safe. The attackers had anticipated fallback points. Through the night vision goggles, she could see them approaching, shadows moving like predators. She crouched low, breathing shallow, listening. Somewhere deep inside, a moral question rose. How many would die tonight because she broke the plan? The team counted. 10 attackers, 15. More, she didn't have exact numbers, only instincts. Her instincts said, protect him. Gunfire erupted. She fired from cover, recoil rattling her shoulders, sweat running into her eyes. The kid was beside her, returning fire. Her brother crouched low, not helping but not getting in the way either. A flash grenade detonated nearby, blinding everyone. She yanked her brother down, pressed him against her back, and kept firing into the dark. Somewhere someone screamed. Minutes blurred into hours. She didn't notice. Each second was survival, each second a choice, advance or retreat. The attackers were relentless. They knew the terrain. They knew how to exploit every corner, every shadow. And yet she refused to give them an inch. Alone. She counted the team, all present, her brother, the kid, everyone alive. For a brief second she allowed herself a thought. Maybe, just maybe, they'd make it. Then the radio crackled again. "Ma'am, extraction ETA 5 minutes. You need to hold until then." 5 minutes. 5 minutes to keep everyone alive. 5 minutes to stand between life and death. She checked the pack. The beacon still armed, still calling for help. It wasn't just an extraction device. It was a symbol, a promise. A promise she had to keep. The attackers surged again, louder this time. She fell back slightly, pulling her brother with her. Gunfire shredded the air around them. Bullets kicked up dirt, sparks flew. Her ears rang. Somewhere, a member of the team went down. Her stomach twisted. She pushed forward anyway. The helicopter appeared again, rotor washed like a hurricane. Its side door opened. The gunner leaned out, sweeping fire across the ridgeline. "Go now," she yelled. The team sprinted, dragging her brother toward the landing zone. She stayed back just long enough to cover them. Bullets ripped past. She could feel the air move with each one. Then she turned, sprinted the final stretch, and dove through the open hatch. Inside, they collapsed onto the floor. Her brother's hands trembled as he gripped hers. You kept me alive," he said. She nodded, voice hoarse. "Always." The kid beside them finally exhaled. The helicopter lifted off, leaving the courtyard and the chaos behind. But she didn't relax. Because she knew the attackers would regroup. Because she knew the war wasn't done. Hours later, she sat in silence, watching the desert blur beneath the rotor wash. Her hands still shook slightly. The team had survived. Her brother had survived. But at what cost? Her mind replayed every choice, every bullet fired, every command ignored. And somewhere deep inside, she asked herself, how many nights like this could she survive before the weight crushed her? The beacon in her pack hummed softly, a quiet reminder that help or hell was still on the way. She tightened the strap. Whatever came next, she would be ready. The sky was breaking now, first hints of dawn painting the horizon. Somewhere below, the enemy lay in wait. Somewhere above, reinforcements would soon arrive. She closed her eyes for a brief second, letting herself feel pride, relief, fear, hope, and then opened them again. The fight was far from over, but at least, for now, they had survived. Why did silence feel heavier than gunfire? The helicopter touched down at the forward operating base just as the sun began to peek over the horizon. Shadows stretched long across the tarmac, cold and sharp. She stepped out first, boots crunching on gravel. Her brother followed, dragging fatigue in every step. The kid and the team formed a loose circle behind them, eyes wary, still shaking from the night's chaos. No one spoke. Not yet. Inside the base, everything smelled of burned diesel, hot metal, and sweat. Medics were already working, checking for injuries, patching cuts, applying bandages. Her brother's legs were scraped, bruised, nothing broken, just enough to make him stiff and slow. She watched him carefully. Every wince, every shallow breath etched itself into her memory. "Let's get you cleaned up," she said softly. He nodded but didn't move. I don't even know what to say," he admitted. "You don't need to say anything," she said, brushing his hair back from his forehead. "You're alive, that's enough." The team gathered in the mess hall later, exhaustion settling like dust on their shoulders. She sat with them, silently observing, listening. The co walked in, expression unreadable. "You're alive," he said simply. "No reprimand yet, no accolades." She nodded. "Alive," she echoed. The room smelled of coffee and burnt toast. The world outside might be chaos, but here, for a brief moment, it felt like a pause. Her brother sat across from her, still quiet. "You're different," he said, voice low. "How?" Stronger, colder, and still carrying all that weight. She looked down at her hands, scarred and trembling slightly. "I've been carrying it for a long time. Didn't think I'd have to carry it alone anymore." He reached across the table, brushing her hand with his fingers. "You're not alone now." She wanted to believe him. But deep down, she knew the storm wasn't over. The intel from last night still burned in her mind, the formation of aircraft, the reinforcements inbound, the unfinished mission. The beacon in her pack hummed softly, reminding her that help was coming, but so were consequences. The kid from the team approached cautiously. "Ma'am, what happens next?" She took a slow breath, letting the weight settle over her. "Next," she said, voice firm, "we prepare." Preparation meant more than loading weapons. It meant reviewing maps, satellite imagery, enemy patterns. It meant checking every piece of gear, every extraction point. It meant staring at the night sky and asking herself how many nights like this she could survive without breaking. Her brother watched silently. "I never thought I'd see the desert again," he admitted, voice barely audible. "You thought you were done with it?" she asked. "Yes, but the desert didn't leave me, and neither did you." She didn't answer immediately. Her gaze drifted to the window, watching dust swirl in the morning light. She remembered that night, the ambush, the smoke, the chaos. She remembered thinking she had failed. She remembered thinking she would never forgive herself. Now she realized forgiveness wasn't a destination. It was a choice made every day. Later, she found herself alone on the roof of the command building. The sun had fully risen, spilling gold over the base. She could see the desert stretch endlessly beyond the perimeter, unforgiving and silent. Her hands brushed over the pack on her back. Inside was the beacon, still armed, still calling. A reminder that nothing here was simple. Not missions, not decisions, not survival. She closed her eyes, and for the first time since that night, she allowed herself to feel hope. It was quiet, almost painfully quiet. The wind carried whispers of the past and warnings of the future. She thought of her brother, of the team, of everyone who had fallen or almost fallen. The weight on her shoulders didn't disappear, but for a moment it felt lighter. Her brother found her there later, leaning against the wall. "You think you can keep surviving this?" he asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I have to, not just for me, for everyone who can't." He nodded slowly, understanding without words. "You'll carry the weight alone." "No," she said, shaking her head. "You'll carry part of it with me. We both will." As the day unfolded, the team trained, prepared, and reinforced the base. She moved among them silently, checking positions, assessing threats, planning contingencies. Every glance reminded her, the storm is coming. And when it does, she won't just fight for survival. She'll fight for her brother, for the team, for what's right. Night fell again, settling over the base like a warning. She stood on the perimeter, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the horizon. The desert beyond remained still, yet she knew the chaos was out there. Waiting, watching, coming. She breathed in the cold air, felt the weight of every choice, every life saved, every life lost. And she made a silent promise. Whatever comes, she won't falter. The beacon hummed softly in the background, a quiet pulse that matched her own heartbeat. Somewhere out there, help was coming. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. She tightened the strap of her pack. And she waited. Why did the desert feel alive with menace? She could hear it before she saw it, engines cutting through the night, heavy and purposeful. The beacon had done its job, but the answer it called in wasn't subtle. Her brother sat beside her, tense, hands clenched over his knees. The kid adjusted his rifle nervously, eyes flicking from shadow to shadow. She didn't speak. Not yet. She had to wait, had to see the storm for what it was. From the perimeter, shadows coalesced into shapes. Armored vehicles, troop carriers, drones slicing the sky like steel knives. "They're coming," the kid whispered. "Yes," she replied quietly. "We'll be ready." Her hands went to the pack on her back, feeling the hum of the beacon. Its pulse was steady, almost comforting in the chaos to come. The team formed a tight defensive circle around the compound, rifles raised, eyes sharp. She moved among them silently, checking positions, whispering corrections. Every movement was deliberate, every instruction measured. She was the calm at the center of a storm that would tear through the base in minutes. The first shots rang out just as the lead armored vehicle breached the perimeter. Dust, smoke, and fire erupted instantly. She fired, taking cover behind a barricade. The ground shook under the weight of enemy mortars. Her brother crouched low beside her, eyes wide. "You okay?" she asked over the roar. "I think so," he gasped. "You will be okay," she said, though her voice trembled. Even as she said it, she knew she could be wrong. The enemy pressed hard, fast, coordinated. Her team fought with discipline, suppressive fire, flanking maneuvers, controlled retreats. But they were outnumbered and the enemy had prepared. Every step forward was earned with sweat and blood. A grenade bounced dangerously close. She yanked her brother down, covering him with her body. The explosion rocked the ground around them, sending shards of concrete and metal flying. For a second, all she felt was heat, the scent of burning rubber and fear. Minutes passed like hours. Every time she took a breath, it felt like inhaling fire. The kid beside her shouted, "They're splitting into squads, flanking left and right." She adjusted quickly, taking aim, firing. Her shots were precise, controlled, each one measured, each one bought another second. Then the unthinkable happened. A secondary breach from the north, right into the bunker where some of the wounded were sheltering. "No," she shouted. But shouting didn't stop bullets. She sprinted, dragging her brother, firing blindly. Team members fell, some crawled to cover, some returned fire. She couldn't save everyone. Inside the bunker, chaos reigned. Her brother froze, panic threatening to paralyze him. She grabbed his arm. "Move now." He obeyed, stumbling but keeping pace. She could hear the enemy's footsteps behind them, heavy, relentless. Somewhere deep inside, the same moral question rose again. How many lives could she carry tonight? How many decisions could she make before the weight broke her? She swallowed hard and ran anyway. They reached the courtyard, but the helicopter extraction point was compromised. She scanned the area quickly, weighing options, calculating odds. The kid was beside her. "They're cutting us off." She gritted her teeth. Then she saw it, a narrow alley leading to higher ground. Not ideal, but it might work. "Follow me," she yelled. The team obeyed, dragging her brother along. The enemy realized their move almost instantly. Rockets streaked overhead, bullets shredded the air around them. She covered her brother, firing bursts from the hip, retreating step by step. Every step forward was a fight with gravity, wind, fear, and the moral weight pressing down on her chest. Somewhere a team member screamed. Somewhere another returned fire. She kept moving. Finally, they reached the high ground. From there, they could see the extraction zone again, almost within reach. But so were the enemy reinforcements, heavier now, armored, relentless. She took a deep breath, feeling exhaustion clawing at her. She pressed the pack strap tighter, feeling the beacon hum. It was now or never. The gunfire intensified. She fired until her shoulders screamed. She reloaded by instinct, not sight. She kept covering her team, dragging her brother forward, refusing to look down, refusing to see the cost. A mortar struck nearby, throwing dirt and rock into the air. Her brother stumbled again. She grabbed him, hauled him upright. "You're almost there," she shouted. The helicopter appeared, rotor wash cutting a path through the chaos. Its side door opened, the gunner leaning out, sweeping fire across the advancing enemy. The team surged, sprinting, diving into the hatch. She stayed behind just long enough to cover the rear, firing every last round, throwing grenades to slow the enemy. The last of her team disappeared inside. She sprinted Dove, and the door slammed shut behind her. Inside the helicopter, she collapsed against the floor. Her brother's hands shook as they gripped hers. You did it," he said, voice hoarse, almost in disbelief. She nodded, unable to speak. The kid beside them finally exhaled, sweat dripping down his face. "We made it." She let herself feel it for a second. But only a second. Outside, the desert still burned with tracer fire and smoke. The enemy had regrouped. They would come again. But for now, her team, her brother, herself, they were alive. She tightened the pack strap over her shoulder, feeling the hum of the beacon. Help would come, reinforcements would arrive. But the fight wasn't over. Somewhere deep inside, she allowed herself a thought. Maybe survival wasn't about avoiding danger. Maybe it was about choosing what and who you fight for. And in that moment, with her brother's hand in hers, she made the choice again. The helicopter rose, carrying them above the desert, the dawn spilling light over the horizon. The beacon's hum pulsed softly in her pack, a quiet promise and a warning. Somewhere out there, reinforcements and consequences waited. She didn't look back. She wouldn't, because she was carrying more than a mission. She was carrying hope. And that was enough. Why did Dawn feel different this time? The helicopter touched down at the forward operating base once more, rotor wash stirring up dust that clung to their clothes, to their skin, to the memories of the night. She stepped off first, boots heavy, heart heavier. Behind her, her brother followed, trembling, exhausted but alive. The kid and the team shuffled behind them, faces streaked with sweat, grime, and disbelief. Silence stretched between them, not peaceful, not comforting, but a quiet after the storm. Inside the base, medics and support personnel moved quickly. They checked wounds, patched abrasions, and handed out water. The smell of antiseptic mixed with dust and gunpowder. Her brother sank onto a cot, staring blankly at the ceiling. She knelt beside him, brushing dirt from his hair. "You're safe now," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "I almost didn't think I would be. You carried me through everything." Her hands tightened around his. "I didn't carry you alone," she said. "You held on too." He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in years, she saw the boy she remembered before the war, before fear became a constant companion. Outside, the rest of the team regrouped. Some spoke quietly about what had happened, what they had seen, what they had done. No one tried to embellish heroics. No one boasted of surviving. Because survival wasn't a story of glory. It was about choices, sacrifice, responsibility. And they all felt it deep in their bones. Hours passed. She found herself standing alone on the edge of the perimeter, looking out across the desert. The horizon burned gold as the sun climbed higher. The wind whispered across the sand. It carried the ghosts of those lost, the echoes of gunfire, the hum of the beacon that had saved them. She pressed her hand against the pack on her back. The faint pulse of the beacon felt like a heartbeat, steady, persistent. A reminder that life, like war, keeps moving forward. Her brother joined her quietly. "You think it's over?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, the war isn't over. The storm will come again, but we survived this one." He frowned. "And if we don't survive the next?" She turned to him, eyes meeting his. "Then we fight anyway, because the only way to live with fear is to keep moving forward." He nodded, the lesson sinking in. They walked back toward the base together. The team was gathered near the command center. The co approached her, expression unreadable. "Your decisions cost us risk, and yet you saved lives." She inclined her head. "Sometimes choices aren't about what's right or wrong," she said. "They're about what's necessary, about who matters most." The co studied her, eyes lingering on the weight she carried, the burden she refused to set down. "Sometimes dignity doesn't speak," she continued, voice low but steady. "It simply acts." Inside the debriefing room, they recounted the attack one last time. The losses, the victories. Her brother listened quietly, absorbing the reality of what had occurred. Not the heroics, but the human cost. He looked at her, voice trembling. "You weren't just a soldier tonight. You were everything." She smiled faintly, worn but unbroken. Just someone who refused to let go of what mattered. Night fell again, but the base was calm. She stood at the edge, looking out at the desert stars. Every star seemed to tell a story of survival, of choices made in silence, of courage that needed no applause. The beacon hummed softly in the distance, a quiet reminder of the storm they had faced and the battles still ahead. Her brother came to stand beside her, quiet, yet fully present. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight crushing her. She felt it balanced, shared, carried not just by her, but by the lives intertwined with hers. The desert stretched endlessly, unforgiving and raw. But she stood firm. Because she had learned, courage wasn't in the absence of fear. Courage was in choosing to act anyway. And she had chosen. Again and again. The wind whispered across the base, soft and almost forgiving. Somewhere in the distance, the hum of approaching reinforcements promised hope. Somewhere the enemy still plotted. But for now, for this moment, the world was quiet enough for reflection. She closed her eyes and let herself breathe. The weight of survival, of responsibility, of love and sacrifice, it was still there. But she carried it proudly, silently, without regret. Her brother squeezed her hand. "You'll carry it with me?" he asked. "Always," she said. And together they looked out over the desert, survivors, witnesses, and guardians of what mattered most. The beacon pulsed softly. A reminder, a promise, a story that would endure. Sometimes the war wasn't fought with bullets. Sometimes it was fought with heart. And sometimes that was enough.